Sure. All right.
Hey there.
We can hear
We
it.
at Blue
That's
Wire
good.
just wanted to take a second to thank you for listening to this podcast. We know everything outside is pretty scary and uncertain, but we're committed to helping you get through your day by talking about the sports and teams that you love most. If you're looking for more great podcasts to distract you, check out BlueWirePods.com. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the podcast and stay safe.
Blue Wire.
Kirk Cousins, he's going to be a Minnesota Viking. This was the right call.
Cousins pressure, hit as he throws, going for Thielen. He's got it! Touchdown! Oh my Diggs! Stay up! Oh my God! 30! No! 10! Touchdown! It's a Minneapolis miracle!
All right, welcome in, everybody. Welcome to Bleeding Purple, a podcast about the Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host, Adam Patrick, from thevikingage.com. We are part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and we're brought to you by BetOnline.ag. Joining me, as always, from MinnesotaSportsFan.com is Eric Strack. How are we doing today, Eric?
Oh, I am doing just fine. We made it through another day of coronavirus, and, so life just keeps living. How about you?
For some of us, yeah. Not to get too dark right away. But, yeah, I'm doing good, and I'm trying to figure out the last time I haven't seen a mock draft.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Whoops.
You still got me going.
All
with
right,
that was
moving
that was
on.
good. That was such a good way to start it. All right.
I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
Um,
I was there.
So
I set you up.
there's not too much Vikings news to talk about today because there isn't. It's the off season, and this is an even slower off season than we've had in the past. So we're just gonna go over some football related stuff, and the biggest news I think that happened in the last couple of days is the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers both came out with new uniforms. The Bucs came out with theirs at a scheduled time, and the Falcons actually leaked. And then they're like, oh, well, I guess we'll just release them now. And then they released them. Have you seen them? And if you have, what are your opinions on these two new uniforms?
Yeah. I haven't seen. I saw a picture of the Bucs uniform, but I wasn't even in the know enough to realize they were even coming out with new uniforms. So when I saw them, I wasn't even thinking twice. Now, the Falcons uniform is another story entirely. I caught their leak pretty early, and I've been tweeting about it too. Like, the Atlanta Falcons have one of the top 5 uniform combinations in NFL history, in my opinion, with their black on silver, old school, with the old school Falcon on the top that Deion Sanders used to wear. I love that uniform, and they're bringing it back as part of their throwback for this uniform series. So I tweeted it today, like, how do you make that alternate, right, the throwback alternate, and then go, you know what? This is just way better than the new ones we made anyways. Let's just go all old school and just throw this whole concept in the trash, because that's probably where it belongs.
Yeah, where what the Falcons did, they went like totally new, where the Bucs pretty much just went back to their old uniform from like the early 2000s when they won the Super Bowl and just gave it a couple tweaks. I think the pants colors are slightly different than they were before. But the Bucs is pretty much just back to normal. There's no alarm climbers or anything crazy. But yeah, the Falcons, see, I don't think I dislike them as much as other people. I don't mind them. The one I don't like is the jersey they have that's like a gradient where it fades from like red to black.
Yep.
That looks like an Arena League jersey, or like the University of Hawaii should be wearing it or something like that. But I don't mind the Falcons jerseys. It's Nike, this kind of thing they do. It's not, they like to do different things, and sometimes it works, like with the Vikings, and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, it's kind of like
Which
so. Yeah, so I know we're gonna get into the Vikings, but so this is the first time that I've just pulled up the Tampa Bay uniforms, and I'm looking at them right now. Like, this is a perfect example for why the Falcons should never have done what they just did. Like, they should have been like, oh, Tampa's releasing at the same time as us. What are they doing? Oh, they're going back to what they had
weren't.
before they had Nike.
The Falcons were supposed to be releasing in, like, I think next week on on the 14th, but then they leaked, and then they're like, ah, shit.
But either way, right? Like, you know that Tampa is coming out around the same time as you. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, what did Tampa do with their uniforms? Oh, they went back to what it was
Yeah, but
before Nike. Because
yeah.
Nike's the one that changed into these ugly things.
And these uniforms that they've been in the works for a while. So
They should have scrapped the idea a while ago then.
I like the Falcons helmet. The helmet though, they went to the matte or mate. Whatever.
Oh yeah, I like the matte. I like the
Yeah.
matte helmets too. I like the matte helmets.
They have a chrome face mask now too.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that better than the shiny helmets. You know, the Vikings used to have the shiny helmets, and now they got the matte.
I like the matte helmets better.
So for the Vikings, I mean, the last time they got new uniforms, I think, was right before Mike Zimmer became the head coach. I think it was 2013. Do they need new uniforms? It's been seven years.
I don't really mind tweaks to uniforms, right? Like, I like the most.
Well, they just changed the helmet.
Well, yeah, and I guess I wouldn't really change anything because, like, the way that they have it set up now, like, you go and look at, like, when, you know, I have a Percy Harvin jersey, right, from, like, when Brett Favre was here in his prime. Like, that's really the last massive uniform change. The numbers are uglier. Like, everything is uglier. I like the shape of the numbers, the little bit of the flair that the numbers have. They're not totally like everybody else's, but they're not out there either. And the uniforms are clean. I like that they're only two-toned now, mostly. Like, you get purple and you get white with maybe a little bit of yellow. You know, like, you don't get yellow around everything like it used to be. I like them now. I like how clean they are.
Yeah, I think the rumor is that the NFL is gonna get rid of, like, the only one helmet rule in, I think, 2021. So that will allow teams like the Vikings to wear, you know, more throwback jerseys like they used to. You know, when Brett Favre was playing and other stuff, they'll be able to bring those away jerseys with the stripe on the side that everyone keeps wanting,
right?
Or the old throwback with, like, the gray face mask and things like that.
So do you think?
I'm good with their uniforms right now.
Do you think NFL football turns into college football once they change that rule? Like, the Gophers have a different helmet for pretty much every game.
No, maybe some teams, because I don't think so. Because one, I don't think. Not that the coaches have a whole lot of opinion, but someone like Mike Zimmer is going to be like, no, we're not doing this. We're not getting 17 different uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, teams maybe like with younger coaches, or, you know, without as much tradition, like the Packers, they're not going to do that, or the Bears are not really going to do that either. But somebody maybe like the Bucks or the Panthers or something, those crazy uniform combos. But I'm good with the Vikings uniforms now. I think that they're probably one of the best they've had. I know people like the 90s, the late 90s ones with Randy Moss and stuff, but
yeah,
I like these
mean,
ones.
those are cool. Yeah, those are cool when you look back and, like, you remember having Randy Moss. They
were really plain.
Yeah,
there was not much to them other than just the color purple, pretty much.
Yeah, those are the uniforms that all of us remember. Our best, like, some of our best Vikings memories are from back then. But if you were to flip those jerseys and, you know, modernize them and then bring them and put them on this, like, we'd get bored after, like, a few games of them. Be like, yeah, these aren't as great as we thought.
Yeah, I think what they have now is good, and I think they need money many tweaks. I would like to see. The one thing I've always wanted to see is maybe like an all black jersey pants combo for the Vikings. Like on
Yeah,
a
I've heard a lot of people
Thursday
say
night,
that.
because I hate the color rush. The yellow numbers, it looks stupid.
Yeah,
Too much yellow. Too
I
much
don't
yellow.
know. Okay, so
Not an all black guy.
the black the calling me racist now. All, all of the
Sure.
all,
No.
a lot of people are calling for the all black jerseys, but to me, like, yeah, all black jerseys are awesome, but black has never been in the Vikings colors other than special jerseys when they've randomly brought some black into it. But
Right.
like when you see the Vikings logo, anything Vikings, it's never black. And so for me, it's kind of just trying to force the black that all the other, because the black jerseys that other teams have are probably their best jerseys. You know what I mean?
Like the Jets.
Yeah, well, and not even alternate, like the ones who have them in their regular, like the Falcons,
The
their
Ravens.
best jerseys ever were black. The Ravens, black, like all black. Like the all black look for teams who have black looks good. That's probably my favorite. But the Vikings, you're forcing it because there's just no black in their color scheme at all.
Right. That's why I think it should be like for a Thursday night game or something special.
Yeah,
Just a one time thing. 'Cause
I'd rather always play
think I-
in our white jerseys when we're color
all
rush, all white.
all white everything.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the all white color rush. I just don't like the color rush. I know they only made it really just because more jersey sales. And there hasn't really been one that I was like, oh, those are good, except for the all white ones. Like whenever a team goes all white, like even the Packers, I'm like, oh, those look nice. Those are clean, and like the Bengals and teams like that. So.
Well, that's even going back to like the Vikings and the jerseys that we were just talking about. Like if I ever use a throwback of the Vikings, if I'm playing Madden or whatever, it's always the all whites from back when in the 98, 99, 2000 all whites. Like that's the only throwback I wear is the all whites back then.
All right. Well, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're brought to you today by BetOnline.ag. With currently no NBA, NHL, or Major League Baseball, you might think that there's nothing to bet on, but you would be wrong because our exclusive partner, BetOnline, still has hundreds of events, games, and props to wager on. From their online casino to poker and blackjack, they're bringing Vegas to you. So if you're missing the NFL, that's no problem because BetOnline has live daily Madden NFL 20 simulations you can bet on. You can bet on Survivor, Big Brother, American Idol, stock prices, and even the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, if it's still going to happen this summer. All open 24 hours a day and all online. Use promo code BLUEWIRE, which is all one word, to join today and receive your new welcome bonus. Bet Online, your online wagering solution. So, since there wasn't much to talk about, figured come up with something we could do that might, take up some time. So we're going to go through every position group and try to narrow it down to what we think the Vikings will use their first draft pick this year on. So we'll go like, kicker, punter, because those are obviously on Rick Spielman's mind every draft season. So we had to, cross those off. So we'll just start off with the obvious. Not going to be kicker. Not going to be punter.
Hopefully not.
Not
going to be a QB.
Not going to be... Okay, so punter, kicker, QB. Probably not going to be running back.
Not going to be running back. Definitely not.
Not going to be tight end.
Definitely not.
Not going to be linebacker? Probably not, right?
Probably not unless if we were in a 3-4, then maybe, but probably not a linebacker in a 4-3.
So defensive tackle? That's still a maybe?
It's a maybe. I'm not going to cross that one off.
Wide receiver, it's a chance.
Definitely a chance there.
Offensive tackle's a chance.
Chance if the right one falls. I'd say all of the offensive
Guard.
line is possible. I mean, I haven't
Guard.
looked at the draft board, but it's quite possible there's a center in there that we would, move to guard or something like that. I don't know if I'd necessarily rule out anybody in the offensive line, any position.
Defensive end, you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cornerback.
Yep.
So
Safety.
Safety.
Safety, I would say contingent upon what happens with Harris. Mm-hmm.
All right, so with maybes, we have defensive tackle, wide receiver, offensive tackle, guard/center, defensive end, cornerback, and safety. Which one of those do you think we could eliminate? Because I think you probably eliminate safety. Because I just don't. Even if they get rid of Anthony Harris, I don't think using a late first round pick is probably the best idea on a safety is probably the best idea for the Vikings.
Yeah, I would. Before today, I probably would have agreed with you until one of my writers wrote today about how the Vikings should draft Xavier McKinney with one of those 2 first-round picks, and he says he would do it with or without Anthony Harris because he's the type of guy So I don't know if you read the blog or not, but he said that.
Well, he can play corner.
Yeah, he played half of his snaps pretty much at safety, and then the other half of his snaps were split between inside linebacker, outside linebacker, and corner. Pretty much.
I don't know how
three
much
ways.
he could do linebacker in college because obviously guys are smaller.
Correct.
I mean,
Yep.
in the NFL, 'cause
Right.
guys are smaller in college, but you
Yep.
can at least line up as a corner.
And with the
so maybe safety.
with the linebacker too, like if you think about his experience at linebacker, and he played safety and he played corner, outside of that blog, I haven't looked into him that much, but he sounds like a perfect nickel guy.
Yeah.
If you have to put him behind Harris for a year, he seems like a guy you could slot in at nickel and he'd be really good.
Let's see. I think we could probably get rid of guard/center because I don't think there's, from what I've been reading and seeing, I don't think there's really any guys from that position group that are worth the first round pick where the Vikings are.
Well, I think
it's not a really deep draft for that position group. Whereas offensive tackle, it's a different story. So maybe we can probably eliminate that.
I'm down for that.
So what between defensive tackle and defensive end, which one do you think maybe the Vikings are more likely to use first round?
I would probably say
edge. They signed Michael Pierce.
Yep, that's true. I would probably say edge. But I think we're getting to the positions where they would be happy with any of these positions that we're talking about and take the best person that they have up on their draft board because they have so many needs on defense that if the right DB falls, and even on the offensive side, if they get a wide receiver that falls that they see higher up the board, they could go wide. At this point, I think what we have it narrowed down to at corner, possibly safety, less likely, but possible. Anywhere on the offensive line, much more likely tackle, just given the options. And then that's what makes this draft so intriguing from the Vikings' perspective is I can't remember the last draft that we went into as a team where we have this many needs, and yet we're still hoping to be a playoff team. It's kind of it's just a weird dynamic.
Well, and I don't know if they're glaring needs because I think they're more depth at this point because they have people who can play corner. They just don't know if they are the guys that are capable for the long haul.
At the end of the day, they need one starter at all of those positions, right?
Yeah.
Like if you could find a way, no matter what round you take them in, but if you could find a way to grab one starting caliber corner, right? And you could grab one starting caliber rush and one starting caliber wide receiver. And you could guarantee
Definitely
me,
wide
no matter
receiver.
where they draft them, somewhere in those first 3 rounds, they're going to grab one of those guys. Then I'd be happy. They would fill a lot of needs. And like you said, they're not necessarily needs where it's like, if we don't get a guy right here, we're screwed. It's
Right.
more that we think we have a guy who can play this position well enough. But if we could improve that to where it's no longer well enough, we don't have to worry about this spot, then that's, I think, what the Vikings are looking for to get out of this draft.
Here's why I don't think it'll be defensive tackle though, because they signed Michael Pierce, they got Shamar Stephen,
That's
they
true.
have Armin Watts, they have Jaleel Johnson, they have the forgotten Hercules Mataafa, who apparently is 290 now.
Yeah,
So they just have a lot of defensive tackles. I don't think they would use a first round pick
that's a good point.
on
That is a good
something
point.
like that.
That is a good
So
point.
they just have a lot of guys, a lot of young guys who I don't know if someone in the first round would necessarily be a better option than what they currently have.
Yeah, I'd
think-
agree with that. I would agree with that.
I think we can eliminate that, but we can keep the other 4, and then maybe do you want to try and rank them as like what you think? Like let's say there's one, guy from all these positions on the board when the Vikings are picking it at 22. Who, what position would they favor? Probably what? Cornerback.
This is for me. This
So
is
it depends on the player too.
this is just such a. It's such a difficult question to answer because they need everywhere so bad, and like we talk about the offensive line, right? So every mock draft that I see has none of them have the Vikings taking an offensive lineman, even though offensive lineman is probably the biggest need, probably a tackle, right? You could argue that that's the biggest need. Nobody has us taking a tackle in the first round because everybody has everybody in the first tier of tackles gone by the time they get to us. So if you're telling me that it will improve that position the same amount, right? You got a wide receiver there that will improve your wide receivers the same as the offensive tackle will improve your offensive tackles, the same as the corner. They're all going to improve your team the same. I'm taking the offensive lineman. I'm taking the tackle. If they're all going to improve my team the same at that position, I'm taking the tackle because that is what the Vikings – if the Vikings have a better offensive line last year, they're way better. If they have a better offensive line the year before, they might not end up crapping their pants. Like, it's been offensive line for the last 5 effing years, and I'm just done with that conversation.
5? It's been longer than that.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
It's been like Rick Spielman's entire tenure, but I don't think people realize like how much better Dalvin Cook made the offensive line look last year because, he's able to just make something out of nothing. Where you look at a team like the 49ers where they have a great offensive line and they can put just no names in their backfield and do fine rushing the ball because they have these giant beasts up front who can actually block for them. Where the Vikings, they have some solid guys like Brian O'Neill and Josh Klein was good, but he's gone.
Right.
Garrett Bradbury's supposed to be better, so they have some some spots that look like they're improving, but yeah, it's an area they need to improve. They haven't really had a whole lot of luck in the past.
Yeah.
Drafting early in the first round, specifically with tackles. But I think the last they took in the first round was Khalil, because Brian O'Neill was a second round pick.
Yeah, I would say that you're right, and that was the last time that they got burned, and it's almost
And,
like they've been afraid to do it since.
I mean, I'd be afraid too, but obviously,
Yeah, because Khalil was like
getting burned by Blair Walsh didn't burn enough because Rick Spielman went back and drafted a kicker a few years later. So
Yeah, I mean,
could be the same case.
yeah, the Khalil. I mean, he was the
He was good the
guy
first
that
year,
you
right?
weren't gonna miss. Like, if there was
Oh, yeah.
anybody in that
No.
entire draft that was a hit for sure, automatic hit, it was him, and we took him, and he doesn't it. And after one good season, he just falls right off the ledge.
Do you realize who the first you know who the first 4 picks in that draft were and where they are now?
Well, it was
It's Andrew Luck.
and then Reggie. That was Reggie Bush draft, right?
No, it was RG3.
RG3 draft. That's right.
And then Trent Richardson, running back from Khalil. So great draft.
Gosh, that's just. Oh.
RG3 is like the only one who's still in the league, and he's a backup.
That is. God, that's just insane. And then with the 2 quarterbacks, it strictly came down to injuries.
Yeah, and after the first year for all of those guys,
yeah, it looked like one of the best drafts ever.
Yeah. Luck looked like the next great quarterback, which he still could have been, but he retired, and maybe he'll come back one day. RG3 looked like a beast. Looked like the next Michael Vick. He had that overtime.
They were questioning the Colts for drafting Luck before RG3.
Yep, and then Mike Shanahan ruined his career with keeping him on the field.
Well, yeah, and bringing in Kirk Cousins to just look over his shoulder for the entire however long he was there. That was not a good idea.
They tried to make him pocket passer, which was a terrible idea.
Yep.
And Trent Richardson just flamed out, and same thing with Matt Khalil. Because he was feeling great every year, but then injuries again.
Yeah, his mental makeup was something else, because then he went to Carolina to be next to his brother, and then they both end up sucking, and it's like.
Yeah, well, he had to make all the that pizza for his pizza shops too. So.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so we figured out the 5 positions. We didn't narrow it down to 1, but receiver, offensive tackle, defensive end, cornerback, and safety. And you said if they're all going to benefit your team the same, you'd say tackle. And if I had to pick one of those, I'd probably just go with corner, just because.
I think it's most likely a corner.
And Mike Zimmer's their coach, so good luck convincing him if the guy that he wants still on the board that they're not going to take him.
Well, here's the thing too, with such a deep wide receiver class. I mean, I fully see it possible that they draft Zimmer's corner for him, and then trade out of the first round. Because
for sure.
I just don't know that they want anything to do with a wide receiver, and I don't know that there's going to be any other position there that's worth taking in that first round spot.
That's one of our upcoming Twitter questions.
Well, it's a good thing that we're pretty much ready to move on to our Twitter questions.
Well, let's move on to some Twitter questions.
All right, let's start with this one since it's already on my screen.
All right.
I'll read it off for you. This is from B. Velasky, and his question at B. Velasky. His question: thoughts on Tony Jefferson if Harris is dealt? I'll let you answer that one because I don't even know who Tony Jefferson is.
Tony Jefferson is a really, really professional podcast.
I know, that's what I'm going for.
Tony Jefferson. Well, he's never mind. He's a safety. He used to play for the Ravens with Michael Pierce, who's now on the Vikings. But he tore his ACL last year, so he only played 5 games. But before that, he was pretty solid safety. I think he played with Eric Weddle back there.
That helps.
And before that, he played for the Cardinals for a couple years.
Interesting. So did he play with any of the really good Cardinal safeties?
Like who?
Like, Patrick Patterson, whatever his name is. Does he play corner? And then Honey Badger, he hasn't been in Arizona very long. He's only been there a couple years, right?
No, he's in Honey Badger's on the Chiefs right now, but yeah, he was with the Cardinals for a couple of years. They might have played together.
The only reason why I ask is I'm just wondering if he's ever played next to an elite type safety like Harrison Smith, if that might benefit him coming over.
Eric Weddle's very good.
Well, yeah. Other than Weddle, I meant.
I think he might have been Tyrann Mathieu for a year or two. But he would just be I think he would be a good option to look at. He's a veteran.
What do you think
but
his salary would have to be?
You could probably get it pretty low because he's coming off a torn ACL.
Those are the type of players we're gonna have to look at.
I mean, yeah, Mackenzie Alexander, what he get, $4 million. So if Jefferson's willing to take that or less, just for an opportunity, because he can look at this Viking situation, especially if they get rid of Anthony Harris as one of his only opportunities maybe to start next season.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
He'd be a good person to look at, but I think also him having the ACL, it's going to be hard right now for teams to to look at his knee and everything and check it out and see if everything's okay, because there's coronavirus we got going on.
I just think
COVID-19.
I think that there is a team out there, and personally I really hope that it's the Vikings, but somebody has to be eyeing Antoine Winfield Jr. and going, we can get this guy in the 3rd round. Like, Antoine Winfield Jr. is a plug-and-play guy at nickel or at safety as a rookie.
Think he makes it to the 3rd round?
I bet he at least makes it to the 2nd round, and I don't think...
Yeah, I think he'll be second.
For him, the biggest problem for him is his injury history. So does a team trust one healthy season as enough to take him in the 2nd round? Because even Mel Kiper has said that everything that he shows on tape, everything that he's seen, is 1st round grade. The only thing keeping him out of the 1st round is his injury history. So does that get him taken in the 2nd? Does he slip to the 3rd? If you're looking for a target where you're going, I don't want to spend my 1st round pick on a corner or on a safety, you have to be gunning for Antoine Winfield Jr. Like, he is just, he's that guy. To me, it's just crazy. And I know that I covered him, and I'm a big Gopher fan, so I'm a homer, and I get all of that. But, I mean, with the pedigree and everything, I don't think there's been a better safety or / cornerback that you can get in the 2nd or 3rd round that's this plug and play.
Yeah, I think both could be a good option if to bring in a cheap veteran and add someone like Winfield who can. That way, Winfield doesn't have to worry about maybe starting in his 1st year, or he can play special teams and some defensive packages, and then in 2021 he can step in as the full-time starter. So I think they could be a good option.
And that's the same thing that Brian wrote about McKinney too, is because he's kind of the same type of player as Antoine Winfield Jr., where he's more of that Swiss Army knife. So even if you keep Harris or you bring in a Jefferson, it just makes sense to add to your depth with a guy who can play safety or nickel, especially with all of the holes we have to fill.
All right, what we got next?
Oh, let's move on to the next Twitter question then. Hold on. We'll get there. Here we go. It's coming, I promise. All right. That's what she said. He said. That's what he said. All right. We've got one from Skol Mitzel. At Skol Mitzel. Vikings are on the clock at number 22, and Jordan Love is still on the board. The Colts call, offer 34, 75, yes, 160, and a 2021 5th. Do you accept?
I would take it with the first 2 picks, and that's it.
Yeah, probably.
I don't need all the other ones, but I mean, Spielman's going to be.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, sure,
dropping 12 spots is a long ways to drop.
Dude,
you would probably have to give up that 160 and the at least the 160. Dude, I don't know about the 2021 5th.
He's going to trade. Like, if any, like him, he's incapable. Spielman's incapable of running a draft and not trading it, and he's going to be on his own, a lot of the time this year. So he's just going to maybe even go a little crazier, where just
that is a good
every
point.
round he's just like, hey, you want to trade? You want to trade? You want to trade?
That's a good point. I haven't seen anybody even talk about that and like how that will affect everything.
There might be some, not with Spielman, but there might be some terrible trades this year just because of that factor of.
But there could
GMs being on their own.
there could be less too. Like there could be, because it's
There could
not
be,
as
yeah.
easy to tap your GM or to tap your owner, to tap your coach and go, hey, this is the trade that we're
Yeah.
looking at. You don't have them on speakerphone. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if it could affect it negatively when it comes to the amount of trades. That's an interesting.
Find out.
That's not something I've even thought about, to be honest.
But yes, I would take that trade. I think he also asked like, who would you take with those picks, and I don't have time to figure out all
Right?
those
Like,
picks
yeah. Come on,
right now.
man.
But
I think
yes,
this is a
yeah,
holiday in.
I would do that trade in a heartbeat because there's the first like 3 rounds. I feel like this draft is pretty deep with some pretty good talent. So I think the Vikings would be fine, and they'd still have that number 25 pick in the first round too. So
Yeah, I agree. I'd much rather have Spielman find somebody who'll give up a third, and all we have to do is drop down like, 5 spots, like one of those deals,
Yeah.
instead of having to drop all the way down 12. But anyways, I've got the next one queued up when you're ready. I take it you're.
Alrighty,
Does that mean you're ready?
I'll try. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Thielen and Harris are 2 examples of players that started at the bottom of the depth chart and developed into amazing starters. This is from
Adam Thielen.
Yes. Yes. This is this is from at Swede Skull. At Swede Skull. All right. Which Viking on the current depth chart is most likely, or are most likely if there's multiple, to blossom like Thielen and Harris did? I'm hoping Mataafa blooms and becomes our next stud at 3 Technique. Your thoughts? That from at Sweet Skull.
Yeah, I think that could happen. I think a lot of young guys are going to get involved in, especially defensive line this year, because we talked about them earlier, about how many younger guys they have. I think Chris Boyd could be someone like that. I think Alexander Hollins is a name to keep an eye on. He's a young receiver. That's about it. Alexander Madison, but he was drafted, so
Yeah. Madison, it's going to be tough
yeah,
because you've got Alvin.
Ali Uda,
Yeah.
the offensive tackle who looked pretty decent in that one game last year. But yeah, Hercules, Chris Boyd, Alexander Hollins.
Yeah.
Aren't they? See, they don't have a lot of those kinds of guys because they just always have a lot of draft picks. So, they might have a couple undrafted guys, but we don't know too much about them because they don't get much playing time. But it's hard to predict someone who's going to be the next Thielen because that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you don't get too many undrafted guys that end up one of the best players at that position in the NFL.
Yeah.
I agree. I think as far as guys who just have the chance to become, well, I guess it happened to Harris too. I mean, there's always that chance that there's somebody on the practice squad or that's sitting. But with Thielen, like, you saw it early. Like, every time he was on the field, even if it was special teams, he was making tackles, he's blocking punts, he's doing things to, like, get his name out there. And I'm trying to think.
I don't know if there's a guy like that right now.
No, I mean, you've got, like, the Holton Hills and, but
I feel like Afedi Adenabo might be that guy already.
yeah,
Because
Afedi,
he was, I think he was a 7th-round pick, and he's continued to get better and better as each year has gone by, and he might be a starter next.
But then again, you would have said the same thing about Stephen Weatherly, and then he just never broke through because there was never a spot for him.
I was never really high
All right.
on Weatherly. Like,
Yeah,
he was decent, but
you got to go. Yeah, there's the Minnesota Sports
I would-
Fan podcast that we used to run. Brandon and I used to just go at each other because he compared Weatherly to Daniil Hunter, and then he would come back with the measurables, and a lot of the measurables that Stephen Weatherly had were not Daniil Hunter caliber, but they were better than I expected. And the comparison between, and this was 2 seasons ago, So this was before Danielle Hunter had absolutely blown up. Like, you could tell he was going to be really good, but he hadn't totally blown up yet. But yeah, there's nobody on the roster right now that like when Thielen was on the roster, everybody was looking for him and going, why isn't this guy getting more playing time? And then eventually he just forced himself into the playing time. But you were always like, he always stuck out. That was the thing about Thielen.
Yeah, if you ever want to give a retort on measurables, just mention one name, Mobo. Then you'll be good. Just be like, oh yeah, they don't mean anything.
They mean nothing. All right.
German Randy Moss.
The German Randy Moss. That was the best experiment of all time.
I think he's still in the league.
No, he's not.
He's
Is
a
he
tight
really?
end. He's like a tight end now. He might be with the Bengals.
That would
Just
be
like on a futures contract or something. We got one more? You said?
Yeah, I think we got one more. Oh yeah, this one is this one kind of talks about what we discussed a little bit earlier, and you didn't include this one, but I can't help myself when I came across the mentions and I saw something about, as he says, our boy Tyler Johnson, and Tyler Johnson is. Oh, this is from @son of Doriath. And any chances to get our boy Tyler Johnson? And I would say there's absolutely a chance. And it really, to me, whoever is targeting Tyler Johnson is who's going to get Tyler Johnson. Because I think right now he is projected as a 3rd, 4th round pick. So if you're that GM that sees him as a steal in the 3rd or 4th round, you can target him at the end of the 2nd and get him for sure. You could target him at the end of the 3rd and probably get him. So yes, we definitely have a chance to get Tyler Johnson if Spielman's targeting him as one of those guys that you can grab and plug in earlier than expected. Then we can definitely get Tyler Johnson. But I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers out there, and I'm a homer, so there's probably a lot of wide receivers who people who have watched them play their entire college career feel the same way about them as I do Tyler Johnson. So, yes, there's a chance, but does Spielman see it the same as us is a question.
Do you think it would be better to maybe go after someone who hasn't been in Minnesota before and won't have that pressure to, maybe because he's the hometown guy, so maybe he'll feel a lot more pressure to kind of live up to that standing. If you bring someone from like Baylor or something, they'll be like, I'm just here to play football.
I would say that might make me a little bit more nervous if he hadn't already done it in college. Right. Like he's from Minneapolis North, and he went to the University of Minnesota, and when he committed, he was a quarterback. He was a starting quarterback at Minneapolis North, and then they converted him to a wide receiver, and then he became the stud that he is now. So that's another thing about Tyler Johnson is some of the best things about him is the technical side of him. Well, only having 4 years to really execute the wide receiver craft, you would think that he can get even better in those categories than he is right now. So because he played here, he went from high school to playing at the U, I don't think it would be that much different for him going from the U to the Vikings. For him, does he want to do that? Like, he's never going to tell us the truth, right? Like, he's not going to come out and say, I don't want to play for Minnesota because I've already been here. It's possible. I mean, I wouldn't be able to blame him. You're a 22-year-old kid. Like, you stayed home for college and didn't go out and see the rest of the country. Like, it wouldn't shock me.
Want to play for the Rams or Chargers?
Yeah, go down and play with Tom Brady in Tampa. Yeah, I mean.
All right. Well,
who knows?
That's what we got for today. Hopefully, we'll have more to talk about next week. A new guest.
Yes.
Won't be Dalvin Cook, but that's okay.
Unfortunately.
If you haven't already checked that episode out, go back. It's the last episode. Interviewed Dalvin Cook. It's pretty good, I heard.
I heard it was too, yeah.
Yep. He's pretty good too.
Well, it was funny. He gave us kind of the first
It
interview.
was better interview than first. It was better interview than First Take. So.
Well, and he kind of gave us like the first interview of his little go around last weekend, because he talked to us on Thursday night, and then he went on First Take and talked to some other reporters on Friday after he talked to us. So like when Courtney Cronin's tweeting out some of the stuff, I'm like, did she get that from our podcast?
Like, we already knew that.
We already knew that, Courtney. Come on, you should get out there a little bit. Hey, people are on more
credit
than
your
just ESPN.
sources. So. All right, but go check out Eric and all his dudes at MinnesotaSportsFan.com. Check out theVikingAge.com. Follow the show on Twitter at Bleeding Podcast, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts.
And go and bet on BetOnline.
Yeah, go to BetOnline.ag and bet on Madden and the weather and anything you can probably think of. You can bet on these days, because they're trying to figure out stuff.
The betting on the weather, that is intriguing.
For some people, yes.
I almost want to do it just so I could say that I did it, and say I beat the weatherman. If you win, if I won the first time, I would just retire and be like, I'm better than the weatherman. I'm never looking back.
You do that, and you let me know.
I'll be sure to do that.
All right. Well, until next time, we will talk to you later.
Bye, fam.